Have you ever had that specific experience where you're looking at your life, and I mean specifically your relationship, and on paper, it's just flawless.
Oh, yeah. The checklist is all checked off.
All checked. The chemistry is there. Everyone around you, your friends, your family, they all think it's great. But then you get alone.
And it gets quiet.
And there's this knot.
That distinct heavy knot right in your stomach, the one that feels like you swallowed a stone.
Exactly. And, usually the immediate reaction is to just gaslight yourself. You tell yourself, oh, I'm just self-sabotaging, or I'm just scared of commitment.
Or I had too much coffee.
I had too much coffee. We are masters at rationalizing that feeling away.
We really are. We treat it like it's just noise. We think it's interference rather than the actual signal.
But the source material we're covering today, it challenges that instinct.
Yeah.
It challenges it aggressively. It poses a really provocative question right at the top. What if that uneasiness isn't confusion? What if it's conviction?
And that's a massive reframe, isn't it? It changes everything.
It does.
So today, we're diving into a guide titled 5 Signs God is Warning You. And before anyone tunes out thinking this is just some, list of archaic thou shalt nots, I really want to be clear about what this source actually is.
Okay.
It's a fascinating synthesis of, yes, biblical scripture, but also really sharp, almost clinical, emotional analysis of relationship dynamics.
It's psychology meets theology.
Precisely. And the core mission of this deep dive today is to help you decode that signal-to-noise ratio in your own life. Because the source argues that the tension you feel...
That war in your head.
Yes, that war between, am I just overthinking this? And is this a divine whisper? It's actually measurable. There are signs.
Which is huge, because I think a lot of us operate under the assumption that if a relationship is doomed, there's going to be some catastrophic event.
Right, the big cinematic moment.
Yeah. Someone cheats, someone throws a plate across the room, a big fiery explosion. We look for that movie ending.
We wait for the car crash to tell us the car is broken.
But this source suggests that some relationships, maybe even most, don't end with a big breakup event. They end with a warning.
A quiet warning.
And if you miss that warning because you're just waiting for the explosion, you can end up wasting years of your life.
And that's the stake here, isn't it? We aren't just talking about avoiding a bad date. We're talking about stewardship of your time and of your heart.
Yeah.
How do you tell if a lack of peace is just a rough patch you need to, knuckle down and work through?
Because all relationships have those.
Of course. Relationships are work. So how do you tell if it's that, or if it's a spiritual red flag that's waving frantically right in your face?
So let's lay the foundation before we get into the 5 specific signs. The source starts with the why. And I think this is so important because, let's be real, sometimes God can feel like the ultimate cosmic buzzkill.
Yes, that's a good way to put it.
You finally meet someone you like, they check your boxes, and then you feel like God is just saying no, and it feels cruel.
It feels like a restriction. It triggers that teenage rebellion instinct in us. I'm not allowed to be happy.
Exactly. Why would the divine intervene to stop something that on the surface feels really good?
So the source tackles this head on. It argues that we have a fundamental misunderstanding of the intent behind the warning. The whole premise here is God doesn't warn to control you. He warns to protect you.
Control versus protection.
Yes, and it anchors this whole idea in Psalm 103, verse 8.
The Lord is compassionate and gracious, abounding in love.
That phrase, abounding in love, that's the key. The source makes this really interesting comparison. It says, imagine a parent. If a parent stops a child from playing with a perfectly safe toy just because they can, well, that's control. That's just mean.
Right. It's arbitrary.
But if a parent stops a child from touching a hot stove,
that's protection.
It's love. It's preventing third-degree burns. So the text really wants us to shift our entire narrative from God is taking this away from me to God is saving me from something I can't see yet.
It's the difference between rejection and redirection.
Exactly. A closed door isn't a punishment. It's a guardrail on a cliff. You might be annoyed you can't walk closer to the edge, but that rail isn't there to ruin your view.
It's there so you don't fall.
It's there so you don't fall.
Okay, so we've established the why. It comes from a place of safety and love. Now we need to get into the how. The source lists 5 specific signs that the stove is hot, so to speak. And the first one is the most subtle, but I would argue probably the most common. The departure of peace.
This is the big one. But we have to be so careful with our definitions here, because peace is a word we throw around a lot in English without really defining what we mean by it.
Right. Like, I just want some peace and quiet. That's not what we're talking about.
Exactly. The source makes a really critical distinction. In this context, peace is not the absence of conflict. It's not just feeling happy or getting along. If you're waiting for a relationship with zero arguments to prove it's from God, you are going to be single forever.
Right. Conflict is inevitable. Even the healthiest couples fight about whose turn it is to do the dishes. So what is this peace then, according to the source?
So the source refers to peace as a fruit of the Spirit. It's referencing the biblical concept of shalom, this idea of wholeness, of a deep spiritual settling. And it points to Colossians 3:15, which says, "Let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts."
Rule in your hearts.
Now, this is where the source gets really technical and super interesting. That word rule in the original Greek context.
Yeah.
It's the word used for an umpire, a referee in a game.
Oh, that's a great visual.
Isn't it? It means that peace is the official who's making the call. Is this play safe? Is this out of bounds? The peace itself is the measuring stick. So the source argues that when that umpire goes silent, or when the umpire starts blowing the whistle like crazy, that is the departure of peace.
But the problem is, we are really, really good at arguing with the umpire.
Oh, we're the worst.
We are. And the text outlines this progression of unrest. I found this part painfully relatable. It starts with just ignoring that gut feeling. You say things like, oh, it'll pass. We're just getting to know each other. I'm just nervous.
It's the rationalization phase. You have a sensation of spiritual unrest, but your brain immediately overrides it with logic, or, what looks like logic.
Yeah, the on-paper logic.
They go to church, they have a good job, they're nice to my dog, they have a 401k.
On paper, it works.
Right, but the source points out that weeks later, even months later, the unrest remains. Normal nerves fade, right? First date jitters, new job jitters, they fade. But this specific lack of peace, it persists. It just sits there like a fog that will not lift.
There was a specific story in the source that really hit home for me. It describes someone who genuinely loved their partner. I mean, everything seemed totally fine on the surface, but they said, every time I prayed, I felt heavy.
That description of heaviness, it's so visceral. It's not a sharp pain, it's a weight.
A weight. And they explicitly said it wasn't fear. And I want to pause on that because I think that's where most of us get tripped up. I feel anxious about a relationship, and I just assume it's my own insecurity or is my own baggage from the past.
Right. Oh, I'm just scared to be vulnerable.
Exactly. So how do you tell the difference?
This is the million-dollar question. And the expert analysis in the text says we have to stop misdiagnosing discernment as fear. Fear is usually frantic, it's chaotic, it's that what if spinning in your head. It rushes at you.
It's loud.
It is loud. But this heaviness the source is describing, it's distinct, it's a quiet, persistent weight. It doesn't scream at you, it just sits there.
So fear screams, but discernment whispers.
Or just
presses down.
Often, yes. Discernment just presses.
Yeah.
The source says that heaviness wasn't fear of commitment, it was discernment of misalignment. God rarely removes that deep sense of spiritual peace without a really good reason. If you're sitting in a quiet moment, trying to connect with the divine, and the persistent feeling you get regarding this person is a heavy weight, that's data.
That's spiritual data.
That is spiritual data that the peace has departed. The umpire has left the field.
And it is so hard to admit that. It's so hard to look at someone you genuinely care about, someone who maybe hasn't done anything technically wrong, and admit to yourself, I don't have peace about this. Because you feel like you need a crime to justify the breakup.
You want the concrete evidence. You want to be able to say, I'm leaving because you lied to me, or I'm leaving because you cheated. But the departure of peace is often a preemptive warning. It's the smoke before the fire. You don't see the flames yet, but the sensor is going off.
Which leads us perfectly into sign number 2, because if you ignore the smoke for long enough, you usually start to see some structural damage. The source calls this one the erosion of values.
And I love that word, erosion.
Me too. It implies something so slow, so gradual.
That is the exact mechanism the source describes. It's rarely a cliff drop. You don't just wake up one day and decide to abandon all your morals and become a completely different person.
No, it happens by degrees. It happens on a Tuesday night over a conversation where you let something slide that you wouldn't have before.
It's the classic boiling frog situation. It truly is. The source uses these keywords like slow compromises, quiet justifications, and lowered boundaries.
And it contrasts erosion with growth.
A vital distinction. Because in a healthy relationship, you absolutely change. You adapt. You learn new things about yourself and the world. But that's growth. It's additive. Erosion implies wearing away. It implies you are becoming less of who you were meant to be.
The scripture reference here is from 1 Corinthians. Do not be misled. Bad company corrupts good character. And I think we usually apply that to, hanging out with criminals or people doing hard drugs or something very obvious.
Right, the bad crowd your mom warned you about in high school.
Exactly. But in a relationship context, the source argues it's much, much more subtle. It lists some very specific symptoms. Like you find yourself praying less than you used to, or you feel like your convictions are getting kind of blurry.
Blurry convictions. That's a great phrase.
Or, and this is my favorite one, you find yourself negotiating things that used to be your nevers.
Oh, the nevers. That's a massive indicator, isn't it?
It's huge. Like, I will never date someone who talks to me that way. Or I will never put myself in a financial situation like that. Or for some people, I will never date someone who doesn't share my core faith.
And then suddenly it becomes, it's complicated.
It's complicated.
Exactly. When you find yourself debating your own non-negotiables, that is the erosion taking place right in front of your eyes. You're literally shaving off pieces of your identity to make the relationship fit.
And the theological warning here is actually quite stark. The source frames it as God warning you when a relationship is actively pulling you away from who he is shaping you to be.
But let me just play devil's advocate for a second here.
Please do. Relationships require compromise.
Right.
I mean, I have to watch movies I don't really like sometimes. I have to eat at restaurants that aren't my first choice. I have to compromise on which side of the bed I sleep on. How do I distinguish between that kind of healthy compromise, just adapting for a partner, and this dangerous erosion of self?
It's a vital distinction, and the source provides a really clear framework. It suggests the distinction lies in the direction of the change and the level of the change.
Okay, direction and level.
Right. So adapting for a partner involves your preferences, hobbies, schedules, communication styles, what movie to watch. Losing yourself, on the other hand, involves your core values.
Oh, okay.
If the relationship requires you to mute your conscience or to dim your spiritual life or to step back from your community just to keep the peace, that's not adaptation. The source says that is a corruption of character.
That's a really clear rubric. Preferences versus values. If I change my sushi preference for my partner, that's adaptation. If I change my moral compass, that's erosion.
Precisely. If you look in the mirror and you're becoming a version of yourself you don't really recognize, and not in a good, I'm growing kind of way, but in a dimmed way, that's a serious warning.
Okay, so that's a big one. Let's move to sign number 3. This one is really practical, and honestly, it's the one we probably ignore the most because it's so annoying to our ego.
Yes. This one hurts.
It's the wisdom of counsel.
The many voices principle.
Yes, it's when everyone around you is gently saying, hey, maybe look out for this, and you're just plugging your ears and singing loudly to drown them out.
The source leans heavily on Proverbs 20.18 here. Plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors, they succeed. And the key word, which the source highlights, is many.
Not just one.
Not just one. If one person doesn't like your partner, that could just be a personality clash. Maybe your mom just doesn't like his haircut. Maybe your best friend is feeling a little jealous of your time. That happens.
Sure, people have their own biases, of course.
But if your mom and your pastor and your best friend and your mentor are all kind of hesitant, if different people from totally different parts of your life are all raising the same yellow flag, that's not a coincidence. That's a pattern. That is data.
The source lists these specific archetypes, and it's so true to life. A parent who is just a little too quiet, a trusted friend who starts asking the hard questions, a spiritual leader who just looks a little concerned when you bring them up.
It's like an intervention happening in slow motion, right? But it's scattered across all these different conversations.
And notice the reaction the text describes. This is the fascinating psychological part of it. It says, how do you react to these concerns? Do you listen? Do you consider them? Or do you just get angry?
The text says you start to defend the relationship harder than you defend your own peace.
That defensiveness.
That defensiveness is the diagnostic tool. And the source offers a key insight here that I think is it's gold. It says, when godly counsel sounds like an attack, it may be because truth is threatening attachment.
Wow. Truth is threatening attachment. That is heavy. Let's unpack that.
It explains the anger. Why do you get so mad when your best friend asks a simple question like, hey, are you sure he's the one? You get mad because deep down, you suspect they might be right.
And you don't want them to be.
You're emotionally attached to something that, on some level isn't good for you. So the truth feels like a weapon. It feels like a direct threat to your happiness, or what you think is your happiness.
It's a protection mechanism. We're protecting the addiction, essentially.
Right, exactly. A healthy, solid relationship can withstand scrutiny. If you're in a great relationship and someone asks you a hard question, you can answer it calmly. You might say, I see why you'd worry about that, but here's how we're handling it.
Right.
But if you are terrified of people looking too closely at your relationship, you have to ask yourself why. What are you hiding? What are you afraid they'll see?
That leads us right to the why of staying. I mean, why do we stay when the peace is gone, our values are eroding, and all our friends are worried? And that's sign number 4.
Fear is a foundation.
This is where we get into the really raw, negative motivations. The source just lists them out so clearly. The fear of being alone, the fear of starting over, the worry that you won't find anyone better.
The sunk cost fallacy of dating. It's so powerful.
It is. I've already put 2 years into this. I'm 32 years old. I can't possibly start over now.
Precisely. But the source frames this spiritually, which is really interesting. It says, love rooted in fear is not love. It's bondage.
Bondage. I mean, that is a strong word.
It is, but look at the scripture they provide here, 2 Timothy 1:7. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind.
Power, love, and a sound mind.
Right. So the source presents a pretty clear binary here. If the relationship only survives because of fear of loneliness, fear of the future, fear of what other people will say, then it cannot be from God, because God does not operate through the spirit of fear.
That's a really helpful litmus test. You just have to ask yourself honestly, am I here because I love this person and I genuinely want to build a life with them? Or am I here because I'm just scared of the alternative?
And the source suggests that if the foundation is fear, the entire structure is unstable. You're building a house on sand. You might feel safe from being alone right now, but you aren't actually safe in a spiritual or emotional sense. You're trapped.
It's heartbreaking because I think so many people stay in those good enough relationships precisely because of that fear. They settle. They settle because the unknown is just terrifying.
And that is exactly why the warning comes. The warning isn't to punish you for being scared. It's God trying to break that bondage of fear to make room for something that is actually rooted in real love and a sound mind. It's God saying, you don't have to live scared like this.
So, okay, we've got loss of peace, erosion of values, people warning us, and fear is the main driver. You'd think by this point we'd be on our knees praying for clarity.
You would think.
But that brings us to sign number 5, which the source calls the prayer paradox.
This is a really nuanced point, and I'm glad we're getting to it. The text acknowledges that prayer doesn't always bring, easy, instant answers written in the sky.
Right.
However, it relies on James 1.5. If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God. The baseline expectation is that prayer should bring direction. Maybe not a detailed map, but at least a compass heading.
But the sign here is that prayer brings more confusion.
Confusion versus clarity. But here is the brilliant twist the source provides. It says, if every single prayer about this relationship ends in mental gymnastics,
Justifying the red flags.
so silencing that inner conviction or just actively avoiding surrender, then the confusion isn't coming from God.
It's coming from us.
It's coming from our resistance.
Yeah.
The text says, and I'm quoting here, the issue may not be God's silence, but your resistance. We are often confused because we're trying to force God's stamp of approval on something he hasn't approved. We're asking, God, please bless this, instead of the much harder question, God, is this yours?
That's the justification gymnastics again. We're trying to twist the answer to be what we want it to be. It's like shaking the magic 8-ball over and over until it finally gives you the answer you are looking for.
And that creates a deep spiritual dissonance, which feels like confusion. We ask, why isn't God answering me? Well, maybe he is answering, and the answer is no, but you're just treating no as unclear.
Oof. Yeah. If you are truly open to the answer being no, the confusion often clears up remarkably quickly.
And the source ends this section with a question that feels like the ultimate deep dive moment. It suggests that God is asking you this one thing. Are you willing to trust me more than this relationship?
Wow. That touches on something so much deeper, doesn't it?
It touches on idolatry, really. Is this relationship or the idea of this relationship more important to you than your trust in the divine plan? If you can't surrender the relationship on the altar, you can't genuinely say, God, take it if it's not yours, then it has taken a place in your heart that it was never meant to have.
That's the mic drop moment. Are you willing to trust me more than this relationship? If the answer to that is I don't know, or even just no, then you actually have your answer about the health of that dynamic.
Precisely. If you are gripping it so tight that your knuckles are white, you aren't operating in trust.
So we've gone through the 5 signs: the departure of peace, the erosion of values, the wisdom of counsel, fear as a foundation, and this prayer paradox. And honestly, this can feel really heavy. If you're listening to this and you're mentally checking off 3 or 4 of these boxes, you might feel very exposed right
Shouldn't
now.
you feel a bit ashamed?
Yeah, and the source anticipates that. In the conclusion, it gets to the hard truth about free will. It reiterates that God may warn you before heartbreak, but he won't force you to listen. The choice is always yours.
And there's a key maxim here that I want to highlight because it's just so perfect.
Go for it.
Love never requires disobedience.
That is a beautiful summary. If you have to disobey God, or your own conscience, or your deep-seated values to keep the love, then it isn't the kind of love that God designed for you.
And the reassurance follows right after. The right relationship will never compete with God's voice.
And that's so hopeful. It means you don't have to choose between God and a happy relationship. You just have to choose God over the wrong relationship.
And we have to reframe what failure means here. I think this is crucial for the listener who feels exposed right now. The source says, walking away doesn't mean you failed. It means you listened.
I love that so much. We treat breakups like they're failures. Oh, I failed at this relationship. I wasted 2 years of my life. But if you walked away because you saw these warning signs and you heeded them, you didn't fail. You succeeded in discernment.
You succeeded in protecting your future self. The whole purpose of the warning, as the source states over and over, is to save you time, pain, and regret. It's an act of mercy. It's God caring enough about your future to disrupt your present comfort.
It brings us right back to that idea we started with. Protection, not control. It's saving you from a house that looks fine now, but is going to collapse 5 years down the road.
And the outro of the source brings us to Proverbs 3, verses 5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. He will make your paths straight.
The final thought from the source is really about the nature of God's love. It suggests that sometimes the most loving thing God can possibly do is warn us before it's too late.
And it leaves the listener with a final challenge: to reflect on whether you are seeking clarity or if you're just seeking comfort. Because comfort will tell you to stay where it's familiar, even if it's toxic. Clarity might tell you to walk into the complete unknown.
And that unknown, that's where the trust comes in.
Exactly. That's the whole ball game.
This has been a heavy one, but I think a really necessary one. It's about learning to read the dashboard of your own spiritual life.
And realizing that the check engine light isn't there just to annoy you. It's there to keep the car from exploding on the highway.
So we'll leave you with this thought to mull over. We talked a lot today about warnings, about God protecting you from what's wrong. But think about this. If God is willing to go to these lengths, removing peace, sending counsel, creating that heaviness, just to keep you from the wrong person, imagine the lengths he will go to bring you to the right one.
That is a perspective changer.
Thanks for diving deep with us today.
Take care, everyone.